Alright, buckle up because Chapter 1 of Dare I Hope is kicking things off with a bang. We open on a grand entrance, an imposing heavy figure step echoing through the palace halls. It's Herace Delgado, the Emperor of the Tevent Empire, returning from war, announcing he's brought back the 5th Imperial Prince. Observes her, Dowager thinking she's Stephanie, looking absolutely furious, throws a gift to the ground but energy around her weight. Herace, with a chillingly calm expression, asks if she killed the Empress while he was away. The tension is palpable, you guys. Stephanie, the Empress Dowager, is absolutely livid, her eyes burning with rage as she glares at Herace. Herace Delgado, the Emperor, stands unfazed, his gaze piercing through the Empress Dowager, completely unbothered by her fury. Later, Herace is in his bath, deep in thought, as Imperial Advisor Oscar Taylor stands by, ready to deliver some troubling news. Oscar Taylor informs the Emperor that rumors are already spreading beyond the palace walls, accusing His Majesty of killing even the 3rd Empress. The advisor stresses the need to keep the late Empress's faction in check, and Herace agrees, stating he can't afford to leave the Imperial Palace unguarded without an Empress on the throne. Oscar Taylor then confirms he'll offer proper condolences and a sympathy gift to the late Empress's father, handling the delicate political fallout. Herace, looking utterly weary, resigns himself to being bound to this wretched place for the time being. You can feel his frustration, right? He muses that while no woman might want the Empress's throne after this, he absolutely needs one to keep the hostile factions in line. Clenching his fist underwater, Herace questions if the Empress Dowager is truly his birth mother, desperately wishing he could find proof. His thoughts drift to a mysterious woman, contemplating how to not only get rid of the Empress Dowager but also completely destroy the faction behind her. Oscar Taylor, ever the bearer of bad news, reveals another problem. Troubling reports are coming in from the north, with the Rascalites launching repeated attacks. Herace looks up, his expression hardening as he repeats, "The north." This is definitely not what he needed to hear. And just like that, we're transported to November 1023 to the northern territories of the Tevent Empire, where things look grim. A blood-soaked sword drips onto the ground, a stark image of the brutal conflict unfolding in the north. We're introduced to Eleanor Snow, the 3rd child of Count Snow, her face smudged with dirt and blood but her eyes burning with resolve. Eleanor Snow, battered but not broken, glances to the side, her expression a mix of exhaustion and fierce determination. Arrows fly past her as she stands her ground, surrounded by enemies. This girl is absolutely in the thick of it. Her father, Count Jaden Snow, the head of House Snow, asks if Houses Owen and Osborne have run away, hinting at a betrayal. Eleanor looks back, her eyes filled with a deep sadness and a hint of anger, as she processes her father's words. A flashback shows the Rascalites, pagans who worship the god of destruction, Rascalis, their hands glowing ominously. Count Jaden Snow recounts how Duke Owen proposed luring the Rascalites to the Snow domain to strike together, a plan that clearly went south. The scene shifts to the Snow domain engulfed in flames, a devastating betrayal confirmed. House Owen and Osborne never showed up. Eleanor, her back to us, stands before a crumbling gate, ready to make a desperate move. She instructs her father to close the gates and hold the enemy back, declaring she must not let them reach the heart of their domain. Her father, Count Jaden Snow, asks where she's going, worried for his daughter's safety amidst the chaos. Eleanor reveals her shocking plan. She's going to the capital to meet the Emperor, leaving her father stunned and questioning her decision. With a resolute gaze, Eleanor Snow looks ahead, her determination unwavering despite the impossible odds. Back at the capital, nobles discuss the dire situation, finding it impossible to believe that House Snow, a pillar of the north, could fall so easily. The door creaks open and Herace Delgado, now dressed in his imperial attire, steps into a dimly lit room. He walks with a heavy step, contemplating the grim reality that if House Snow falls, the entire northern territories will follow soon after. Herace looks down, his expression serious, knowing the immense responsibility that would fall upon him. He realizes that when that time comes, he'll be the one leading the expeditions to reclaim the lost lands. Talk about pressure. Suddenly, a flash of light and a sword slash. Herace, quick as lightning, confronts an intruder demanding they identify themselves. The cloaked figure apologizes for the intrusion, asking for forgiveness for slipping in to see His Majesty in secret. Herace, surprised, realizes it's a woman and demands to know how she managed to get past his guards. The cloaked figure's hood slips back, revealing her identity. It's Eleanor Snow. Removing her hood, her face illuminated by the soft light, revealing her striking features. Herace watches her, his expression unreadable, a hint of suspicion in his eyes. Eleanor Snow formally introduces herself as the daughter of Count Snow and humbly requests a moment of his time. Herace, still holding his sword, tells her he'll forgive the intrusion, but there's a catch. He warns her with a chilling intensity that if her request displeases him, she will die right where she stands. Yikes. Eleanor, undeterred, explains the full gravity of the situation. War has broken out, House Snow has suffered heavy losses against the Rascalites, and Houses Owen and Osborne betrayed them, leaving them in a dire situation. Herace acknowledges her as a warrior but coldly states he has no intention of interfering in domain wars. But then, Eleanor drops the bombshell. Her request is to claim the vacant throne of Empress. Oh my God, what an ending to Chapter 1. Eleanor Snow, the determined lady from the north, makes her bold request. She wants to claim the vacant throne of Empress. Telling someone they're a quick learner what remembers happening, perhaps that he was. Emperor Callian, shrouded in a dark, ominous energy, observes her, thinking she's testing him. This guy is absolutely intense. Eleanor clenches her hands, her face etched with distress as the purple energy around her intensifies. She's clearly in pain. Suddenly, Callian's shadowy aura swoops in, engulfing Eleanor. She gasps, completely overwhelmed by his power. Callian, ever the provocateur, remarks that her struggle makes her seem human. He then casually asks if she's heard about the third Empress's death. Eleanor's eyes glow with a fierce purple light as she explains her strategy. Becoming Empress would allow House Snow to greatly benefit His Majesty. But Callian just smirks, completely unbothered. He questions if she truly thinks he's unaware of House Snow's current state, or if he'd even blink if they fell. Eleanor counters, appealing to his supposed care for his people. Callian, however, dismisses her, telling her she presumes too much. He's clearly been watching her, noting how she joins expeditions that don't even require imperial presence. He's calculating every move. Eleanor, with her glowing eyes, remains steadfast, her determination unwavering despite Callian's intimidating presence. Callian demands her true reason for wanting the throne. Eleanor, without hesitation, declares she wants to protect House Snow. He lets out a scoff, finding it utterly ridiculous that she'd aim for the Empress's throne just to stop a petty domain war. My guy really thinks this is small potatoes. Callian looks down at Eleanor, calling her audacious. But Eleanor stands firm, stating she's prepared to do anything to protect her family. She warns him that the Imperial Palace is no warm haven, comparing its harshness to the biting cold and razor-sharp ice of the north. Callian accepts her request, looking forward to seeing how well she endures. Eleanor, deeply grateful, promises to repay this debt with her life. With her mission seemingly accomplished, Eleanor asks if she can return to the north, needing to help her father. But Callian slams his hand down, rejecting her plea. He points out they've only known each other for a few hours. Talk about a power play. He declares he'll send his own people to the north and that he will personally involve himself in its affairs, leaving Eleanor with no choice but to stay. Later, Eleanor sits alone on her bed, gazing out the window, the weight of her decision heavy on her shoulders. She thinks of her father, Count Jaden Snow, praying he's able to hold the line in the north. The pressure is immense. Her thoughts then drift to her brother, a painful memory stirring within her. A sword plunges into the ground with a heavy thunk, signaling a dark, violent past. Eleanor, clad in armor, gasps, a cloak fluttering around her as she relives the traumatic scene. Her brother, Adrian Terrace, warns her to be careful, calling her Ellie in a moment of tender protection. He stands in front of her, a shield against danger, telling her to stay behind him. This is a man who would do anything to protect his sister. Tears stream down Eleanor's face as she remembers the chilling reality. The cold preserved the bodies, preventing them from rotting. She sees the skeletal remains, realizing they were no longer living, just lifeless matter. This memory is absolutely devastating. With renewed resolve, Eleanor clenches her fists, believing that becoming Empress is the only way to protect House Snow from now on. A knock at the door pulls her from her thoughts and she quickly wipes away her tears, composing herself. Cecily, the Imperial Palace maid, enters with a bow, introducing herself and stating she's been commanded by His Majesty to attend Eleanor. Unaware of Eleanor's true identity, Cecily politely asks whom she will be serving. Eleanor, playing it cool, simply states she is the honored guest of Tulip Palace, keeping her Empress-to-be status a secret. She internally vows to hide her true identity for as long as possible, knowing the dangers that lurk within the palace walls. In a place like this, anyone could become an enemy. The political intrigue is already off the charts. Meanwhile, back in the Emperor's office, a subordinate asks if it's true that Count Snow's daughter is seeking the Empress's throne. The subordinate, a man named Duke Owen, agrees, assuming the Emperor feels wronged because people believe he killed his Empresses. He thinks Lady Snow couldn't possibly know the truth. Callian turns to him, a dangerous glint in his eye, asking pardon. "Oh, Duke Owen, you're treading on thin ice." Count Osborne, another subordinate, explains that Eleanor knew Callian drew the enemy away to protect common folk, but he's baffled, wondering how she knew this without ever being on the battlefield. Callian, however, looks utterly intrigued by Eleanor's mysterious knowledge. This woman is definitely getting his attention. Count Osborne argues that sending the Black Order of Knights to the north was completely unnecessary, questioning the Emperor's judgment. He emphasizes that the Black Order is the most elite of the 4 Knight Orders, making their deployment a huge deal. And on top of that, sending Adrian Terrace, the Emperor's personal escort knight, with them, that's just overkill, right? Callian explains his true motive. If the Black Order finds anything suspicious in the north, they're free to wipe everyone out. Yikes. Count Osborne finally connects the dots, realizing Callian suspects the Domain War is a trap orchestrated by the Empress Dowager. This is a chess game, people. He then points out that Callian doesn't believe a single word Eleanor has said. So he asks, if her claims turn out to be true, will Callian actually make her Empress? Meanwhile, we cut to the Northern Territories, the House Snow domain, where the real battle is raging. Duke Owen questions how His Majesty can even intervene in the Northern Domain's affairs, clearly confused by the Emperor's sudden involvement. Count Osborne agrees, stating that the Emperor has never before interfered in a domain war so far from the capital. This is unprecedented. Suddenly, Adrian Terrace, the escort knight of the Emperor, arrives on the scene, his cloak flapping dramatically in the wind. Adrian delivers a chilling message. To make an enemy of House Snow is to make an enemy of the Imperial Palace itself. Talk about a mic drop. Duke Owen and Count Osborne are absolutely stunned. Duke Owen immediately tells Count Osborne they need to retreat, realizing something has gone terribly wrong. Count Osborne is furious, screaming that they were so close. He orders his men to return to the domain, their plans completely ruined. Adrian, standing amidst the chaos, asks for Count Jaden Snow. He then formally introduces himself, his eyes piercing, as Eleanor in her battle-worn armor looks on with a mix of sadness and fierce resolve. What an ending. Muses just throws a gift to the stayed ground in the rear and commanded from afar. Unfortunate, demanding to know how he dares, he thinks. But energy around her weight intensifies. We flash back to a moment where Eleanor Snow and her father, in pain Count Snow, look absolutely stunned, their eyes wide with shock. Count Snow offers a knowing smile, telling someone they're a quick learner, with a different time pang perhaps. Watts remembers a strange purple aura flickering around her as she struggles to maintain her composure, that he was never the type to stay behind, always on the front lines. Back in the present, Eleanor thanks the Emperor for his help, her voice laced with concern as she asks about her mother and brothers. He confirms they are alive. The Emperor then cuts right to the chase, asking Eleanor if she still wishes to be Empress. Her answer is a firm, unwavering yes. He presses further, questioning if her ambition is to protect House Snow from the likes of House Owen and House Osborne. Eleanor confirms, adding that her second brother, Count Havelian Snow, will absolutely stand his ground. Her thoughts drift to the tragic past, remembering how both her eldest brother and father died protecting House Snow, and she wonders with fierce determination what could possibly stop her from making the same ultimate sacrifice. The Emperor observes her, a subtle, unreadable expression on his face. Eleanor, meanwhile, is desperately holding back her tears, her resolve hardening with every passing second. 6 months, that's the timeline the Emperor gives for their wedding. Eleanor simply accepts, her gaze steady. But then he drops a chilling line, a veiled threat. We'll see if you're still alive by then. Eleanor, however, internally scoffs, thinking he needn't worry about her survival. He finishes his sentence with a sinister smile, looking forward to seeing how beautiful she will be. This guy is cold. But Eleanor's internal monologue is pure fire. She won't be crushed until she's shattered her enemies to pieces. To the Emperor, the Empress is nothing more than a puppet, someone who remains in the palace so he doesn't have to deal with her. She's like a candle, easily snuffed out at any moment, disposable. But Eleanor is absolutely done with that narrative. That may have been true until now, but from this moment on, things are going to be completely different. The Emperor's chilling words echo in her mind, a stark reminder of the dangers ahead. The palace is full of imperial consorts, each more miserable than the last, all eyeing the Empress's throne. Eleanor knows they'll be coming for her. Just then, a knock. Cecily, Eleanor's maid, announces that Her Highness the Second Imperial Consort requests an audience. Eleanor can only talk about timing. Oh, this is about to get spicy. We get a quick rundown of the other players: the second Imperial Consort of Rose Palace, the third of Daisy Palace, and the fourth of Hyacinth Palace. But among them, Calliope Rhiannon, the second Imperial Consort of Rose Palace, is the most desperate, absolutely gunning for the Emperor's favor and the Empress's throne. And here she is, Calliope Rhiannon herself, ready to make her move, radiating an intense aura. Eleanor, however, is not one to be intimidated. Her eyes are sharp, her resolve unwavering, a silent challenge. Calliope immediately goes on the offensive, yelling at Eleanor for her insolence and demanding respect from an imperial consort. Such nerve. Eleanor, meanwhile, is thinking back to her precautions, how she's been sticking a silver knife into her food to check for poison at every meal. And just 2 days ago, the tip of that very knife turned black. Oh no, this is bad. She'd already suspected her maid Cecily was working for Calliope, putting the pieces together. After all, Cecily is the only one who delivers food to Tulip Palace, making her the prime suspect. But Eleanor also considered the possibility that someone else in the kitchen might have been the culprit. Not Cecily directly. But then she saw the swelling on Cecily's cheek after the failed attempt to poison her, and that's when Eleanor knew the truth. Eleanor looks Calliope dead in the eyes and utters her full name, Calliope Rhiannon. Her internal thought is clear, a silent declaration: so you're coming after me, game on. Calliope, completely flustered by Eleanor's silence, demands to know why she isn't saying anything if she's being ignored. Calliope then boasts that she knows exactly who Eleanor Snow is, and came prepared with all the information. She sneers, accusing Eleanor of acting high and mighty because of House Snow's former glory, but reminds her that things have changed, haven't they? And yet here Eleanor is, still acting so proud. Calliope is absolutely seething, her face contorted in rage. Eleanor, calm as a cucumber, drops the bomb. That's why you poison me. Boom. Calliope's face twists in shock, a stunned "what?" escaping her lips. She's completely caught off guard. Calliope tries to deny it, asking why she'd ever put poison in her food. But Eleanor, ever the strategist, reveals she never specified food, implying Calliope's reaction just gave her away. Calliope scoffs, calling it a ridiculous conspiracy and asking if Eleanor seriously thinks His Majesty would even believe such slander. Eleanor just smiles, a chilling, confident smile, and asks why she would possibly need the Emperor's help to deal with her. Mic drop. Calliope's eyes widen in pure, unadulterated fury. She's absolutely livid, her composure completely shattered. Calliope lunges, trying to grab Eleanor, but Eleanor dodges with lightning speed and a nearby glass shatters instead. Oh my god, it's on. A cold winter night blankets the grand estate, but inside, a different kind of chill sets in as someone slams their fist down in frustration. It's Franklin Owen, Eleanor's fiancé, looking absolutely distraught, clutching his chest as if in pain. Persephone Osborne, Eleanor's friend, gently chides him for eating too quickly, but Franklin barely seems to register it. Persephone watches him with a complex expression, a hint of something more than just concern in her eyes. Franklin pours himself another glass of wine, gulping it down as he curses his fate, regretting the domain war and believing it was doomed to fail from the start. But wait, Persephone's expression darkens as she questions his sudden change of heart. She reminds him point-blank that he was the one who spearheaded the betrayal of House Snow. Oh, the hypocrisy. The scene shifts to a flashback or perhaps a dream where Persephone finds Franklin Owen still awake, lost in thought with his sword. She advises him to get some rest, as he has an early departure planned for the next day. Franklin confesses he can't sleep, the weight of the important day ahead keeping him restless. Persephone then asks why he's so invested in this domain war if he truly loves Eleanor, warning him of the heartbreak and isolation she'd face. Franklin remains silent, his gaze fixed on the gleaming blade of his sword, a chilling glint in his eyes. He thinks to himself that Eleanor is simply too strong for a woman, too assertive and independent for his liking. He claims to love her but absolutely despises those very qualities, a fractured image of Eleanor reflecting his twisted desires. Persephone listens intently, her face unreadable as Franklin continues his dark monologue. His plan is truly sinister. Once House Snow is destroyed, Eleanor will be completely isolated and only then will she finally submit to him. What a sicko. Persephone simply looks at him, a silent understanding passing between them or perhaps a silent agreement. Back in the present, Franklin is absolutely livid, slamming his fist down again, furious that the Emperor dared to meddle in northern affairs and halt the war. He clenches his fist, lamenting that if the domain war had just succeeded, Eleanor would have been his, completely under his control. Persephone, however, has a different take, stating with conviction that Eleanor would never have submitted to him, even if he had won. She reaches out, gently stroking Franklin's hair, a gesture of comfort and something more intimate. And then the bombshell drops. Persephone confesses that she who has loved him for so long can submit to him, sealing it with a kiss on his forehead. Oh my God. Franklin's eyes widen in shock, completely taken aback by Persephone's unexpected declaration. This is a whole new level of drama. Meanwhile, far away in the Imperial Palace, Eleanor Snow opens her curtains, letting the light stream into her secluded chambers. She observes the bustling capital preparing for the New Year's festival, yet notes the eerie silence that surrounds her own residence. Eleanor reflects on her current position, a woman of the Tulip Palace, completely uncared for and isolated within the grand walls. With a resolute pull, she closes the curtains, shutting out the outside world. Dressed in elegant mourning attire, Eleanor declares that the time for grieving is finally over. It's time to focus on the survivors and, most importantly, herself. Our girl is getting ready to make moves. The grand doors creak open, revealing Eleanor stepping out, ready to face whatever comes next. With a determined step, she sets off, her destination clear. It's time to meet the Emperor. Elsewhere, a man gasps in a dark, brick-walled room, looking at a bound, bloodied figure tied to a chair. This is intense. The Emperor, looking utterly unbothered, finds the whole situation amusing. Yikes, this guy is cold. A brief flashback shows the Emperor lying in bed, seemingly deep in thought. He reaches under his pillow, his hands searching for something hidden. A small, gleaming dagger is revealed, a silent testament to his constant vigilance. Back in the present, he clenches his fist, a fierce determination in his eyes. He wonders if his enemies truly believe they can catch him off guard and succeed in killing him. Leaning closer to the tied-up man, the Emperor asks for his thoughts, a sinister smile playing on his lips. He clicks his tongue, noting that the man is under a powerful enchantment spell. Recognizing the magic at play, an attendant arrives, announcing that Lady Eleanor Snow has requested an audience with His Majesty. The Emperor smirks, having anticipated Eleanor's move, especially if she plans to make use of him. He's always one step ahead. He turns, his dark cape swirling dramatically, ready to receive his unexpected visitor. The Emperor warns that he's been busy, so Eleanor's request had better be important, tilting his head towards the captive. Eleanor, accompanied by an attendant, stands before him, calmly asking if she may approach closer. A close-up reveals Eleanor's serene and composed expression, completely unfazed by the grim surroundings. The Emperor is impressed by her unchanging demeanor, even in such a place, and grants her permission to come forward. Eleanor walks towards the bound man, her footsteps echoing with a confident clack in the quiet chamber. She immediately identifies the magic, stating that the man is under an enchantment spell. The Emperor praises her knowledge, admitting her skill in magic is greater than he initially thought. Eleanor, ever the diplomat, humbly replies that His Majesty flatters her. But then, the Emperor's gaze sharpens as he reveals his true nature. He prefers not to keep powerful mages by his side, fearing their potential for deception. Eleanor, with a subtle, confident smile, retorts that she's not foolish enough to try deceiving someone stronger than herself. Talk about a power play. Emperor Dietrich is absolutely playing mind games, asking Lady Snowdon if she's curious about what might happen during a grand occasion. Absolutely playing mind Snowdon games, ever so calm, confirms that something is indeed set to take place during the New Year's festival. Happens she during a grand glances at the occasion tied-up man, and Dietrich confirms the unfortunate truth. Yes, something bad is coming. Lady Snowdon lays out the harsh reality. The imperial palace is always a hotbed of assassination attempts on the emperor, which is why he usually leaves for the battlefield. But right now, with no empress, he's stuck, and the palace would be thrown into absolute chaos if he were to leave. She drives her point home, explaining that if a disaster strikes during his reign, the people would completely deem him unfit to rule. Dietrich, looking deep in thought, has to admit that she has a very valid point. Snowdon adds that it's been quite a while since a large rift has opened, hinting at the scale of the potential threat. A rift, huh? Emperor Dietrich repeats, the weight of the word clearly settling on him. And here's the terrifying truth. A rift is a passage torn through space and time by the Rascalites, specifically to drag monstrous creatures into their world. The ritual requires a dark, intricate magic circle, pulsing with sinister energy. To execute such a devastating rift, countless human sacrifices are absolutely required. Chilling, right? Emperor Dietrich stands there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable as he processes the gravity of the situation. Lady Snowdon then challenges him directly. Will he be the one to stop these incoming monsters? With a radiant glow, Snowdon declares her unwavering loyalty, stating she hasn't wavered for a single moment. Dietrich observes that she seems to value her family more than her own life, a subtle jab at her motivations. He lets out a small chuckle, musing about what it must be like to have someone you'd risk your life to protect. He admits internally that he feels a pang of envy at the thought. Snowdon, seizing the moment, promises that if she becomes Empress, she will risk her life to protect His Majesty as well. She adds that crucial too, emphasizing her commitment. Dietrich remains skeptical, his arms still crossed, clearly not entirely convinced by her words. Lady Snowdon thinks to herself that he's still considering her words, and perhaps he still doesn't trust her completely. She then turns her attention to the tied-up man, noting his tenacious vitality and wondering if she could make good use of him. Snowdon then asks Dietrich if he's truly willing to risk his life to protect her. Dietrich counters, asking if she's capable of breaking the enchantment spell on the tied-up man. The man struggles, huffing and puffing, barely clinging to life but still alive. Dietrich finally gives in, stating that if she can break the enchantment and uncover the mastermind, he'll permit her to keep the man at her side. Snowdon is genuinely surprised, asking how he knew exactly what she wanted. He smirks, revealing he noticed her looking at the man with greedy eyes from the moment she walked in. Snowdon internally questions if she truly looked that obvious, a hint of embarrassment perhaps. Dietrich teases her, saying he almost felt jealous that his future wife was gazing so intently at another man. He then gets serious, explaining his need for someone trustworthy within the palace walls. He warns her that the tied-up man was once an agent of the enemy, a dangerous individual. Dietrich cautions that if she fails to break the enchantment, the man might just turn his blade on her. Snowdon scoffs, a confident smirk on her face, asking if he really thinks she'd fall to a blade like that. Dietrich lets out a small laugh, acknowledging her surprising confidence. She coolly states that she's simply determined to stay alive, no matter what. Then comes the mic drop, since my future husband won't protect me. Ouch, that's a direct hit. Dietrich, looking a bit stunned, asks why she would even want to marry such a cold-hearted man. Snowdon's true ambition shines through. She seeks power, and there are those she absolutely wishes to strike down with her own blade. Her hand clenches, a fierce determination in her eyes, showing the depth of her resolve. Dietrich finds her declaration quite frightening, and hopes her blade never turns on him. Lady Snowdon looks at him, hand over her heart, a solemn promise in her gaze. She finishes her thought from earlier, promising her protection under any circumstances. Talk about commitment. Emperor Dietrich looks away, clearly processing everything she said, a flicker of something new in his expression. Finally he relents, giving her permission. Very well, take him with you. A major win for Snowdon. Lady Snowdon promises to bring him the answers he seeks very soon, a confident smile on her face. As she walks away, she thinks to herself that the Emperor finally seems to think she has a point. Meanwhile, the tied-up man, still bound, internally acknowledges that this isn't a bad outcome at all. What's he planning, though? Eleanor Snow, the Lady Snow, is presented with something, her eyes wide as she questions. A gift. A door creaks open, signaling a new arrival. And what a gift it is! Eleanor Snow finds a bound man delivered right to her, sent by His Majesty himself. But something about this whole situation immediately strikes Eleanor Snow as incredibly strange. She stares at the man, utterly bewildered. He was supposed to be covered in wounds, but now he's completely healed. How is that even possible? Standing nearby, observing Eleanor Snow's reaction, is Duke Oscar Taylor, one of Herace's most trusted confidants. We get a glimpse into the source of this miraculous healing, a divine power granted only to the Delgado bloodline chosen by the gods themselves. Eleanor Snow quickly connects the dots, realizing this must be the Emperor Herace's incredible power, explaining how he survived countless monster attacks unscathed. Duke Oscar Taylor then shifts the conversation, asking Eleanor Snow if she's properly broken off her engagement. He clarifies, specifically mentioning her fiancé, Lord Franklin Owen. Oh, the drama. Eleanor Snow acknowledges Duke Oscar Taylor as a close confidant of Herace, the Emperor. She grips a bloodied cloth, looking down at the captive man, calling him Altard. Wait, is that his real name or a designation? Eleanor Snow, with a steely gaze, asks Duke Oscar Taylor if he believes she has any reason to maintain that engagement. Duke Oscar Taylor reminds her that she and Lord Franklin Owen were supposedly close since childhood. Eleanor Snow admits Franklin was once a good friend, but explains that those who rule must bear heavy burdens. The engagement was a strategic decision for their domain, and at the time, she thought it wasn't a bad match given their history. Her expression darkens, revealing a profound shift. Now the only feeling she harbors for her old friend is pure hatred. Yikes. Duke Oscar Taylor, ever the provocateur, presses her further. Would she seek revenge on those who wronged her? Without hesitation, Eleanor Snow clenches the bloodied cloth in her hand, her resolve clear as she affirms, "Yes, I would." Duke Oscar Taylor simply observes her, a silent moment passing between them. He muses to himself that it's no wonder the Emperor Herace is so intrigued by her. She's a bold woman who doesn't flinch no matter the wound. With a slight smile, Duke Oscar Taylor declares that he has thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Meanwhile, the captive man, Karen, lies unconscious, his red hair a stark contrast to his bronze skin. Eleanor Snow studies his features, speculating that he might be from the western kingdom of Brant. She reaches out, a soft glow emanating from her hand as she touches his face, sensing a powerful domination spell at play. Eleanor Snow begins to work her magic, a brilliant light surrounding her and Karen as she attempts to break the enchantment. This isn't just any spell, it's a powerful enchantment, one that few could ever hope to perform. With a mighty crack, the magical chains binding Karen's mind shatter. Karen jolts awake, letting out a pained ugh. As the spell breaks, his eyes wide with confusion and perhaps a hint of terror. Eleanor Snow watches him, an exclamation mark above her head, ready for what comes next. She calmly introduces herself to the now conscious Karen, asserting her new role as his master. Eleanor Snow then asks Karen for his name, who struggles to recall it. She notes the intense, almost palpable, murderous aura emanating from him. With a firm squeeze of his hand, Eleanor Snow sends a jolt of energy through Karen, making him cry out in pain as she asserts her control. Finally, after a moment of struggle, Karen manages to utter his name. Karen. Eleanor Snow, ever composed, tells him it's a beautiful name. She then probes further, asking Karen if he remembers anything else from his past. Karen admits that most of his memories are still hazy, the trauma of the enchantment lingering. A flashback takes us to a blood-soaked Karen, panting heavily, clutching a knife in a desolate, ruined setting. The glint of the knife reflects the grim reality of his past actions. A chilling voice from a masked figure tells Karen that with this power, there's nothing he can't kill. The masked figure with a commanding gesture tells Karen he will obey any order given. The figure leans in, demanding to know if Karen understood. The pressure is immense. Karen, still in the flashback, struggles to breathe, clearly overwhelmed and under the masked figure's complete control. Back in the present, Eleanor Snow observes Karen, realizing that something significant has just come back to him. She wastes no time, cutting straight to the chase and asking Karen who ordered him to assassinate the Emperor. And the answer is a bombshell. Karen reveals it was none other than the Empress Dowager. Oh my god. We cut to the Empress Dowager looking absolutely sinister, accompanied by a man who seems to be her accomplice. A close-up on her hand, perhaps hinting at her manipulative nature. The accomplice asks the Empress Dowager if she's worried, concerned about the assassin potentially breaking under torture. But he quickly reassures her, confident that no one can break the powerful enchantment spell, meaning Emperor Herace will never uncover the truth. The Empress Dowager smiles, a chilling expression on her face as she reveals her true desire, to hear the Emperor Herace utter the cursed word, mother. This is absolutely twisted. Back at Lily Palace, consort Calliope is absolutely seething, stomping her way through the halls. Her face is flushed with rage, muttering about how she was completely disrespected. Oh, Calliope honey, you're in for a rude awakening. Because Aurelia Rogers, the first Imperial consort, clenches her just fists, casually dropped some truth bombs. Aurelia pay for looking down on the, reminding Calliope she has Imperial no favor with the consort's emperor and is basically irrelevant. Clenches her just fists. Aurelia pay for looking down on the, reminding Calliope she has Imperial no favor with the consorts. This girl really thinks she's hot stuff, huh? She marches straight to Aurelia's chambers, claiming she has something important to discuss. You just know this isn't going to end well. Aurelia Rogers, looking elegant as ever, is caught off guard by Calliope's sudden appearance. The first Imperial consort is about to get an earful. Calliope, sitting across from Aurelia, vehemently agrees with something she's just said. What could be so urgent? Aurelia, ever the picture of calm, questions Calliope's motives. You can almost hear the gears turning in her head. Calliope reveals her grand plan. They need to remove Eleanor Snow because she's obviously going to be the next Empress, and Aurelia as the first consort should claim the throne. Aurelia takes a slow sip of her tea, a subtle hint of disapproval on her face as she tells consort Calliope she's mistaken. She calmly states that she has no desire to become Empress. Calliope looks absolutely baffled, like her entire world just shattered. Aurelia's hand clenches, a flicker of something intense in her eyes. The throne isn't what she wants at all. And then a memory flashes. Aurelia, looking radiant, holding hands with a man named Herace Delgado. Wait, what? Who is this guy? Calliope, completely taken aback, stammers that she just wants to obey His Majesty's command and fulfill her role. My guy, you just tried to overthrow the future Empress. She quickly tries to backtrack, claiming she only wanted to help Aurelia. Oh, the excuses are flowing now. Aurelia gives a small, knowing smile. It's the kind of smile that says, I see right through you, sweetie. Internally, Calliope is just laughing. She knows Aurelia is playing a game. She thinks Aurelia is a cunning fox, wondering if she really believes she can fool her. Calliope knows Aurelia truly loves the Emperor, so what's her angle? Calliope observes Aurelia, acknowledging her beauty. There's a hint of begrudging admiration there. She's convinced the Emperor will definitely fall for Aurelia. This is a dangerous game of chess they're playing. And then, another vision, Eleanor Snow looking absolutely stunning in a passionate embrace with the Emperor. This is huge, what is happening? Aurelia sits alone, lost in thought. The weight of her choices and her past is clearly on her mind. Calliope, with a sly smirk, peeks into Aurelia's room. She's definitely up to no good. She slams the door shut, making Aurelia's teacup tremble. Aurelia's thoughts drift to Eleanor Snow, a storm brewing within her. Meanwhile, we get a close-up of the Emperor looking regal and powerful. His presence is undeniable. Eleanor Snow, sitting opposite Emperor Bastide, realizes she recognizes his voice. This is a major clue. She flashes back to the gardener who had the exact same voice, but their appearances are completely different. She wonders if he used magic but quickly dismisses it as not just any magic. Emperor Bastide confirms her suspicions, stating that the magic used isn't something just anyone can wield. So he is the gardener. Eleanor Snow formally introduces herself to Sir Bastide, maintaining her composure despite the shocking revelation. Emperor Bastide, with a charming smile, tells her to just call him Eo. Oh, this is getting spicy. Eleanor, however, sees through the pleasantries, realizing the Emperor placed someone capable of such powerful magic by her side to keep an eye on her. She stands tall, a determined look on her face. Eleanor Snow is not one to be easily manipulated. The scene shifts dramatically to the Northern Territories, the Snow Domain, a harsh, snowy land. Havelian Snow, Eleanor's brother, stands on a battlement. Havelian expresses his relief that they were able to protect their people, all thanks to the Emperor's messenger. Little do they know who that messenger really is. The people of the Snow Domain celebrate, relieved that the immediate danger has passed. It's a moment of peace in a tough land. Havelian Snow looks out over his domain, a thoughtful expression on his face. He carries the weight of his people. We're introduced to Aster Snow, the youngest child of House Snow, looking quite dashing. Aster playfully teases Havelian, saying Eleanor is strong, unlike him. Havelian, clearly annoyed, tells him that was too harsh. Aster, still grinning, tells his older brother to step up. These two have a great sibling dynamic. A messenger bird, a beautiful white dove, flaps past Havelian carrying an important message. He looks surprised. Havelian receives the letter addressed to Dear Havelian and Aster. It's from Eleanor. The letter reveals a bombshell. Eleanor will be crowned Empress before summer. You're not ready for this. She warns that other houses may turn their blades toward House Snow, but she promises to delay it as much as possible. Eleanor declares she will never forgive House Owen and Osborne, confident that Havelian feels the same. The political game is on. She lays out her strategy: cut off House Osborne's trade routes as their barren lands rely on them for survival. Eleanor is a strategic genius. Havelian is impressed, marveling at how Eleanor is still devising strategies for their domain even from the Imperial Palace. She's truly dedicated. Back at the palace, Eleanor writes, reflecting that while the palace may be cold, it's still warmer than the harsh north. She gazes out the window, a quiet determination in her eyes. She's sacrificing a lot for her family and her people. Havelian and Aster read the letter together, their faces serious. The weight of Eleanor's words sinks in. Havelian grips the letter, thinking that despite Eleanor's brave words, it must be incredibly hard for her, all alone in a place where she has no connections. He vows not to pity her for her choice, knowing it's not what she truly wants, as he turns away with a resolute expression. Havelian Snow declares he will lay the foundation for the difficult path Eleanor is about to take. This family bond is absolutely everything. In Sunlight sips her tea, but within its churning with dark walls, shadows of conspiracy linger. Eleanor Snow, they plan to use the New Year's festival crowd as sacrifices to create a rift. Sips her tea, thoughts. Realized the ever-elegant, terrifying truth. Sips her tea. Her mind absolutely horrifying, thoughts right. Emperor Eo, looking as stoic as ever, is clearly aware of the gravity of the situation. Eleanor wonders why he hasn't taken any measures yet, after he seemed to believe her completely. But then it hits her: Eo is still standing guard outside her door. He has taken measures, just not the ones she expected. Determined, Eleanor rises. She'll confront the Emperor herself. She must prevent innocent civilians from being sacrificed. Suddenly she gasps, a look of pure shock on her face. She turns, her long hair sweeping around her, because Emperor Eo was literally right there, the entire time, just behind her. Eleanor glares at him, clearly annoyed that he was eavesdropping on her inner monologue. Eo looks away, a bit awkward, as we see a glimpse of the assassin Karen in the background. He lets out a small laugh, impressed. Eleanor actually managed to break Karen's enchantment spell. Eo reveals that Eleanor pinpointed Karen's exact hiding place. She's seriously sharp, you guys. Even with hazy memories from the spell, Karen remembered precisely who gave him the assassination order. Eo ponders, asking if it's the person he thinks it is. Oh, the suspense. Eleanor explains that the Empress Dowager's faction is too strong. A mere testimony won't be enough to bring her down. Eo agrees, remembering how the Empress Dowager didn't even flinch when he threw the 5th Imperial Prince's severed head at her. Talk about cold-blooded. Instead, he suggests cutting off her right-hand man. Eleanor looks surprised by this bold move. She quickly identifies the target, advisor Herace Eagler. Eleanor has already figured out that Herace Eagler is the Empress Dowager's main strategist. She's always 10 steps ahead. EO reveals the plan. Karen will testify against Herace Eagler. If an assassin names him as the one who ordered the Emperor's murder, not even the Empress Dowager can protect him easily. Eleanor, with a look of fierce determination, declares she'll prepare the evidence herself. EO stares at her, a hint of admiration in his eyes. Eleanor asks if she's pushing things too far. EO smirks, assuring her it's absolutely perfect. This guy loves a good scheme. He explains that if their enemies see him leisurely enjoying a date, they'll think he's completely oblivious. Eleanor nods in agreement. EO asks if she'd be alright with that. Eleanor smiles, saying she's actually been longing for some company. A date with the Emperor? Sign me up. The scene shifts to a bustling town, full of life and activity. EO gently clasps Eleanor's hand, a sweet gesture. He helps her out of a magnificent carriage, surrounded by beautiful flowers as they embark on their strategic date. They share a moment looking at each other, their plans set in motion. A commoner trembles, shouting praises to the Emperor. His reputation precedes him, and not always in a good way. Eleanor notes that the Emperor's infamous reputation is enough to make people tremble just by seeing him. She realizes the Empress Dowager completely seized public opinion by painting him as an irrational emperor who killed 3 empresses. Eleanor looks thoughtful, processing the depth of the Empress Dowager's manipulation. EO maintains his serious demeanor. Aware of the public's perception, he takes a confident step forward, ready to play his part. EO and Eleanor walk hand in hand, presenting a united front to the world. Back at the palace, EO asks, "Shall we begin? The real show is about to start." He sits, a book in hand, as his gaze flutters up. With a dramatic swish, Eleanor makes her entrance. And oh my gosh, she looks absolutely stunning in this sparkling purple gown. She's literally glowing. EO is completely speechless, just staring at her. Eleanor, ever confident, asks if she doesn't look beautiful. My guy is still recovering. He lets out a soft PFFT, a small smile playing on his lips. EO finally manages to say, "You do." Meanwhile, the maids in the background are completely flustered by the Emperor's reaction. Eleanor beams, clearly pleased with his reaction and her dazzling appearance. But outside the palace, the news of the Emperor's date causes an uproar. "Preposterous," someone shouts. 2 women gossip, one shocked that His Majesty went on a date, the other confirming it was with Eleanor Snow. The rumors are spreading like wildfire. A red-haired woman, likely from the Empress Dowager's faction, is absolutely furious, denying the Emperor would ever go on a date. But then her eyes flash. She quickly calms herself, realizing this is a golden opportunity she needs to seize. She asks her maid if Tulip Palace is empty, and the maid confirms it is. What is she planning? She clatters something on the table, a sinister smile gracing her lips as she holds a small, suspicious-looking fruit. Oh no, this is bad. Alright, buckle up, because we're starting this chapter with a chilling smile from Eleanor, the red-haired antagonist, as she holds a sinister-looking potion. Her maid, looking absolutely terrified, asks what it is, and Eleanor reveals it's a poison that makes skin rot away. Yikes. She then describes with a disturbing grin, "Someone get this maid a new job." This woman is truly unhinged. Her maniacal laughter echoes, and the poor maid can only look on in horror. Seriously, someone get this maid a new job. Okay, quick scene change. We cut to our protagonist Eleanor walking casually with Emperor Herace, looking absolutely stunning. Herace teases Eleanor about her spending habits, saying she knows how to bleed an emperor dry, but Eleanor, ever so witty, retorts that a little shopping won't make a dent in his pocket. He lets out a soft chuckle, clearly amused by her confidence and charm. These two are just too cute together. Herace then asks Eleanor if she's truly fine with the rumors that will inevitably spread about them going out on a date, and her response? She says that's exactly what she wants. She explains her genius strategy: the more anxious her enemies get, the more mistakes they'll make. She just hopes they don't lose patience too quickly. Kalis looks at her, a smile playing on his lips, admitting he's curious about how the late Count Snow raised such a sharp woman. Eleanor looks thoughtful, perhaps reflecting on her past and the harsh lessons she learned. She tells Kalis she had to learn everything through experience, and then, with a sudden shift, she tells him to halt. Kalis looks confused, but Eleanor is staring intently at something, her gaze sharp and focused. A close-up on Kalis's face reveals his surprise and a hint of concern. What has Eleanor spotted? He then asks her if she's not curious why he stayed put all this time, even suggesting she might suspect him of letting commoners suffer to draw out an enemy. Eleanor replies that while she is curious, she doesn't suspect him of such a thing, making a subtle clack sound with her heels. Kalis just looks at her, a silent moment passing between them full of unspoken understanding. Eleanor confirms they are indeed in the busiest part of the city, which is exactly where they need to be. And here's the reveal. Kalis tells her he's placed 37 mana stones to form a protective barrier along their path. This guy is always 10 steps ahead. Eleanor realizes Kalis has been making preparations all along, and that's why he wanted to come to the square today. What a brilliant plan. She points out the need for knights to direct the crowd, but also the danger of spies among them. Kalis simply agrees, knowing the risks. But then, Eleanor makes a bold declaration. She'll direct the crowd herself, telling Kalis not to trust anyone else. Kalis is shocked, asking what, as Eleanor insists she can do it on her own, coming every day until the festival ends. He questions if she's joking, but Eleanor is completely serious, asking if the future Empress isn't capable of at least that much. You go, girl. Kalis admits he never expected such things from his Empress as Eleanor gives a determined, confident smile. She's ready to prove herself. Eleanor looks absolutely radiant, her expression full of resolve and a hint of playful challenge. Kalis reaches out, gently touching her hair, a moment of tenderness amidst their serious conversation. He leans in close, their faces almost touching, creating an incredibly intimate and charged moment. Are they about to? The tension is palpable as they stand there, gazing into each other's eyes. My heart can't take this. Kalis pulls back, looking utterly flustered and asking himself, what did I just do? Oh, Kalis, you're falling hard. Eleanor, however, just smiles sweetly, her eyes closed, clearly enjoying the moment and Kalis's reaction. She's got him wrapped around her finger. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the sun begins to set over the grand architecture. The captured assassin, alone in a room, contemplates running away, seeing it as the perfect chance. My guy really thinks he can escape Eleanor. He asks if his life will be spared now that he's revealed who ordered the assassination. Classic villain move, trying to bargain. He then asks to be allowed to leave this place, hoping for a quick exit. But Eleanor appears, calm and collected, asking him where he would even go if he left. The assassin replies, anywhere, desperate to find a place where he can finally be free. Eleanor gently pats his head, asking him what he would do with freedom after being raised as an assassin his entire life. Deep question there, Eleanor. She suggests he'd likely just continue assassinations because humans can only do what they know, and questions if that's truly the freedom he desires. Instead, she tells him to learn about the beauty of this world, offering him a different path. Eleanor promises that when the time comes she will grant him his true freedom. Oh, the suspense. The assassin looks at her, a flicker of hope and confusion in his eyes, repeating the words true freedom. Back to Eleanor, antagonist, S-Maid. She drops something with a clack, her face pale with terror. What has she seen? And just like that, the assassin appears, looking through a translucent curtain, his expression serious. He's clearly up to something. The red-haired Eleanor, with a chilling determination, pours the green potion into another liquid as the assassin watches from below. This can't be good. What is she planning now? Someone's carefully mixing something into a bottle, giving it a good, suspicious swirl. Then a maid, Cecily, places the bottle on a vanity, a subtle clink echoing in the room. Calliope, our queen, observes this and immediately wonders if Cecily just poisoned her facial lotion. But then she calmly dismisses it, telling herself it has nothing to do with her. Oh, you know it does, Calliope. She just sits there, a thoughtful expression on her face, clearly cooking up something. Cecily, the maid, rolls in a cart, announcing that Calliope's meal is ready. But wait, Karen is there and he's giving Cecily an absolutely intense glare. he knows something's off. The table is set with a delicious spread, and Calliope invites Karen to come eat. Karen, still looking a bit suspicious, picks up a tempting meat pie. He takes a big bite and Calliope notes that meat pie must be his favorite. Food truly is the way to a man's heart, even Karen's. Karen, meanwhile, is happily munching on his pie, completely distracted by the deliciousness. She watches him, a subtle, knowing look in her eyes. Karen looks back at Calliope, still mid-chew, probably wondering why she's not eating. Calliope then states she'll eat once peace has been restored. What a cryptic yet powerful statement. Karen looks at her, a hint of confusion and concern now clouding his expression. He flashes back to earlier, remembering Cecily's suspicious actions. Karen tells Calliope that Cecily, Eleanor Snow's maid, put something in her lotion. He's totally looking out for her. Calliope, ever the calm and collected one, just thanks him for telling her. She already knew, didn't she? Meanwhile, in another room, Eleanor Snow is humming a happy tune, completely oblivious to the trap she's about to fall into. She smirks, looking at her own lotion bottle. Oh, you guys, you know what's coming. Eleanor thinks about how Calliope should have returned and washed up by now, wondering why her rival's room is still so quiet. She gleefully applies the lotion to her own face, convinced Calliope's face will be ruined and she'll never dare step outside Tulip Palace again. But then her eye starts to sting. Wait, why does her face feel like that? Panic sets in as her face begins to burn, the poison taking effect. She screams, realizing something is terribly wrong with her face. Her face is absolutely covered in a horrific burning rash. This is bad, like really bad. Eleanor stares in horror, demanding to know what happened to her face. The irony is just chef's kiss. Holding the bottle, Eleanor finally realizes the poison is in her lotion. My guy really thought that would work on Calliope. And then it hits her, could it be that Cecily betrayed her? How dare she? In a fit of pure rage, Eleanor shatters her mirror, unable to bear the sight of her ruined face. She stands there, absolutely furious, her face a disfigured mess. What a spectacular downfall for our villain. Back with Calliope, her maid confirms that Eleanor's maid put poison into Calliope's lotion. Calliope just smiles, a knowing look on her face. A bold move, Eleanor Snow, she thinks. You just got played. The maid looks at Calliope, perhaps a little surprised by her mistress's calm demeanor amidst the drama. Calliope's maid then asks why Eleanor Snow hasn't come herself to speak with her. The maid explains that Eleanor claimed she was busy buying dresses and wouldn't return until evening. What a flimsy excuse. And then the maid delivers Eleanor's absolutely arrogant message. She's too important to come when called and Calliope should come to her. Calliope lets out a laugh. Oh, Eleanor, you really don't know who you're messing with, do you? She stands, arms crossed, a fierce determination in her eyes. Eleanor's arrogance is about to backfire big time. Elsewhere, Karen is out and about, completely disguised, walking through the bustling city streets. He meets up with Calliope, asking if she means for them to keep watch together. Our dynamic duo is back. Karen simply smiles and agrees. Looks like our power couple is about to make some serious moves and you're not ready for this. Emperor Seal looks at Lady Io, a slight smirk playing on his lips, remarking that even she can be surprised sometimes. Lady Io leans in, explaining that while she can recognize him up close, his disguise with different hair and eye color completely fooled her from a distance. Seal confirms it's a trick he often uses when traveling in disguise, giving her a knowing look. Io's mind races, connecting the dots and realizing Seal's ability is similar to Sir Bastide's shapeshifting magic. This is a huge reveal. Seal, however, is internally panicking, wondering how in the world Lady Io knew he could use shapeshifting magic. Io, with her usual bluntness, asks Seal if he's perhaps a little less skilled than Sir Bastide. Oh, the audacity. Seal's internal doom is absolutely hilarious. He just stares at her, thinking about how she manages to say the most insolent things with such an innocent face. Lady Io quickly apologizes for her rudeness but insists that Sir Bastide's shapeshifting was so flawless, she couldn't help but compare. Seal turns the tables, asking her how she even knew Sir Bastide was using shapeshifting abilities in the first place. Io calmly explains that she first noticed a suspicious gardener loitering around Tulip Palace, then later a completely different knight appeared, but their voices were identical. What an observant queen. Seal, trying to play it cool, asks if that's truly so surprising, but you can tell he's a little thrown off. His hand clenches slightly, a sign of his internal turmoil as he processes her words. Io, in her thoughts, wonders why she doesn't want to reveal the full extent of Seal's shapeshifting. Emperor Seal is absolutely reeling, questioning why he's revealing such a critical shapeshifting ability so openly to this woman, a power even his closest aide Oscar doesn't know about. Lady Io then wonders if he'd at least tell her the name of the spell, but then her thoughts drift, speculating if he revealed it because he wanted to see her eyes. Seal's thoughts confirm it as he fixates on her brilliant, sparkling violet eyes. Oh, the romance. He clenches his fist again, clearly struggling with his emotions and this unexpected connection. Seal then tells her that even if he did reveal the spell's name, it would be of no use to her. Io, ever the challenger, insists he should tell her first and let her be the judge of its usefulness. You go, girl. Emperor Seal can't help but smirk, finding her persistence almost childlike and completely endearing. He tries to change the subject, asking if she's eaten breakfast, but Io immediately calls him out, knowing exactly what he's doing. She presses him, asking if it's because no one else must ever know of this, to which Seal simply replies yes. Seal then warns her that he looks forward to seeing how tightly sealed her lips will be, a clear threat wrapped in a charming smile. Lady Io, however, interprets this as him expecting her to occasionally pester him to reveal the truth behind his ability. She's absolutely fearless. With a bright smile, she tells him he's figured her out, completely owning her playful challenge. Seal can't help but laugh, covering his face in amusement at her audacity and charm. Lady Io then shifts the conversation, asking if House Snow also holds a festival around this time of year. She lets out a soft laugh and explains that it always snows heavily around the New Year festival, so people would make snow sculptures. Seal asks why the festival is held toward Mount Arlen, showing genuine interest in her stories. Io's eyes sparkle as she recalls the beauty of the snow, describing it as truly magnificent. Emperor Seal looks at her with a profound expression, stating that she's faced way too many trials, which makes Io question him with a surprised sir. He finishes his thought, saying she's faced too many trials for a woman who still sees such beauty in the snow. My heart. Io is completely taken aback, internally noting how he's saying such kind words, warm enough to melt the snow, all with such a composed and calm voice. Meanwhile, the calm before the storm continues as Seal and Io's conversation fades into the background. We cut to the opulent palace of the Empress Dowager, where a new, darker plot is brewing. An attendant informs the Empress Dowager that the Emperor is currently in the palace. The attendant continues, mentioning that the elders are expected to arrive tomorrow and the citizens are all busy with festival preparations. Everything is falling into place for something big. The Empress Dowager sips her tea, a calculating look in her eyes as she listens to her attendant. Her attendant, a man with a stern expression, admits that all these preparations and timings make him uneasy. The Empress Dowager, with a chilling resolve, declares that they'll have to move ahead of schedule. Oh, this is bad. With a sinister smile, the Empress Dowager declares, let the fun begin, as her plan to strike not tomorrow but today, at this very moment, is set into motion amidst the bustling festival preparations. You are not ready for what's coming next. The grand chambers of Empress Dowager Giselle's palace feel heavy with unspoken tension as she sits alone, gazing out the window. A close-up reveals the Empress Dowager's stern, troubled expression, her mind clearly elsewhere. Her thoughts are far from peaceful, consumed by the wretched Delgado bloodline and the tiny emperor, a constant, wailing reminder of her thwarted ambitions. Twists in a mask of fury and consumed by the wretched desperation Delgado bloodline and the tiny emperor, knowing her father will never forgive her if this crucial plan fails. And if that wasn't enough pressure, she's absolutely terrified that Herace will seize the chance to tear her apart. She clenches her jaw, convinced that the only reason Herace hasn't eliminated her already is because of her father's immense power. With a swift, dramatic flourish, Empress Dowager Giselle pulls back a heavy curtain, revealing something hidden beneath. Her eyes glow with an eerie green light as she stares down at a dark, shadowy object, clearly an artifact of sinister magic. Suddenly, a surge of dark, chaotic energy erupts, swirling and spreading like an ink stain across the room. A sinister, snaking shadow slithers across the floor, making its way towards a grand, ornate door. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit, ominous chamber, hooded figures stand guard around a glowing ritual circle adorned with crimson gems. The dark magic intensifies, forming an intricate, glowing seal on the floor before erupting in a massive, crimson burst of power. Switching scenes, the sun shines brightly over a bustling city street, a stark contrast to the darkness we just witnessed. Eo Bastide, the skilled mage, walks beside Letitia, observing her with a calculating gaze, noting just how useful her ability truly is. He ponders how to unlock the secrets of her power, wondering if it would be easier to simply ask Letitia herself. The two walk side by side, sharing a moment, their conversation light and playful. Letitia, ever the charmer, compliments Eo, telling him he's so dazzling she can't look away. Eo Bastide responds with a confident smirk, clearly enjoying her attention, but their pleasant stroll is abruptly shattered by a deafening kaboom that shakes the very ground beneath them. Panic erupts in the street as people scream and question what's happening, completely caught off guard. Letitia looks around, her expression shifting from surprise to concern, wondering what exactly is going on. The crowd descends into a chaotic clamor, making it impossible to see anything through the surging mass of people. Letitia declares in that case, and a powerful whoosh of light begins to emanate from her, signaling she's about to act. She's completely enveloped in a brilliant burst of energy, soaring upwards as her magic fully activates. The onlookers are absolutely stunned, gasping at the sudden display of power and wondering who these hidden individuals are. Another person cries out in shock as Letitia's radiant magic continues to expand, pushing back the crowd. A powerful whoosh of light sweeps across the entire street, clearing a path as Letitia unleashes her full magical force. Eo Bastide watches, impressed, acknowledging that Letitia is an even more skilled mage than he had initially thought. Letitia smiles, radiating confidence and power amidst the shimmering light, clearly in her element. Eo playfully asks if he needs to keep his guard up with her, and Letitia, with a knowing grin, replies, maybe just a little. He gives a subtle smirk, intrigued by her power and their dynamic. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoes from the sky, drawing everyone's attention upwards in confusion and fear. Both Letitia and Eo look up, their faces etched with shock and dawning realization. A terrifying whoosh sounds as a dark, swirling vortex, glowing with ominous red energy, tears open in the sky. Letitia gasps that's. They both immediately dash forward, running towards the unfolding catastrophe as Eo Bastide grimly finishes her thought. A rift. Kaboom! The rift is absolutely tearing through the city, and the sheer force of it is knocking people off their feet. One poor guy gets slammed to the ground, barely able to let out a gasp as the chaos erupts around him. But then, a familiar blue light swirls into action. It's Evelina, and she's not about to let this destruction continue. She unleashes a powerful gust of wind, pushing back the panicked crowd and creating some much-needed space. Whoa! Evelina realizes the sheer scale of the problem. There are just too many people caught in the crossfire for her to protect everyone at once. Her magic is strong, but even Evelina knows she can't handle this entire situation by herself. She needs help and fast. With a fierce resolve, Evelina calls out to anyone who can still move, urging them to find their strength and stand up. And who else but Emperor Herace appears, his voice booming with authority, telling everyone to get up now if they want to survive. Evelina notices Herace has dropped his disguise, revealing his true face. He's doing it to command attention and ensure everyone listens. Smart move, Your Majesty. The crowd immediately recognizes Emperor Herace, their shock turning into a glimmer of hope as they realize their ruler is here to protect them. Herace wastes no time, shouting for everyone to evacuate immediately, his urgency cutting through the panic. Quickly, Evelina watches as the crowd finally starts moving, realizing that Herace's presence is exactly what they needed to get organized and evacuate. With the crowd dispersing, Evelina focuses her energy on the rift itself, but she can't help but wonder if her wind magic alone will be enough to close it. The rift continues to rage, a torrent of destructive red energy clashing against Evelina's calming blue magic. Just as doubt starts to creep in, Herace steps forward, his voice a chilling command, freeze. And just like that, the chaotic rift is encased in a thick layer of ice, Herace's power literally freezing the very fabric of reality. Evelina is absolutely stunned, She knew Herace was powerful, but this is a whole other level of magic she hadn't anticipated. Her hair flutters in the residual magic, the sheer power of the Emperor's ability leaving her speechless. Herace gently places a hand on Evelina's head, praising her for her marvelous job in preventing a total disaster. But Evelina, ever humble, gives all the credit to Herace, saying it was only thanks to His Majesty's aid that they succeeded. Herace downplays his contribution, stating he only froze the rift for a moment. He explains that without Evelina's wind magic pressing in and forcing the rift shut, it would have just kept widening. Evelina smiles, insisting that it's all thanks to Herace's timely intervention. Herace, however, remains serious, reminding her that this is only a temporary fix. The rift will eventually open again. He reassures her that his knights are on their way, ready to handle the situation properly. Evelina, ever loyal, immediately offers her assistance to Emperor Herace. But Herace declines, telling her she should return to the palace instead. Evelina is clearly confused by his dismissal, wanting to stay and help. Herace gently presses on her shoulder, reassuring her that she's done everything she possibly could. He mentions that his knights will recognize her, implying she's done enough to be seen as an ally. Then Herace drops a bomb. He thinks it's best if he's the only one who knows the true extent of Evelina's power. What's he planning? Evelina, though surprised, complies with Emperor Herace's request. As she turns to leave, Evelina can't shake the feeling that Herace is actually worried about her. Is that just her imagination, or is there something more? Herace reinforces that feeling, telling her to please be careful. Evelina, bold as ever, directly asks him if he's worried about her. You go, girl. She thinks to herself that she can't read his mind, so she needs him to be direct. And Herace, to everyone's surprise, admits it. He is worried about Evelina, my heart. The Emperor, usually so stoic, shows a rare moment of vulnerability, confirming his concern for Evelina. The rift continues to rumble in the background, a stark reminder of the danger, but for a moment, their focus is solely on each other. Meanwhile, back at the palace, two maids are gossiping about the strange events, wondering, thinking what His Majesty is still happened at the Safely Square and why all the inside knights the palace rushed out. They're confused, wondering, thinking what His Majesty is still happened at the Safely Square and why. Oh, if only they knew. But Evelina, now back in the palace, quickly realizes the implication. If the Emperor is supposed to be here but he was there, this means the enemy, believing Emperor Herace was still safe in the palace, chose today to make their move, thinking he wouldn't be there to stop them. If the rift had opened and widened while the Emperor was perceived to be safely in the palace, the public outrage would have been immense, giving his enemies a perfect reason to try and overthrow him. Hundreds would have been injured, but their plan completely backfired thanks to Evelina and Herace. And now Evelina stands cloaked, her eyes glowing with a renewed determination. Eleanor Snow walks into her room only to spot a maid acting super suspicious. What in the world is she doing over there? The maid, Cecily, jolts in surprise, clearly caught off guard, stammering out a flimsy excuse. And just like that, she drops something with a loud crash, her cover completely blown. Cecily is absolutely trembling, trying to pull herself together, but it's too late. Eleanor has seen everything. Eleanor Snow realizes it's Cecily, the maid she suspected was working for Calliope, here to plant poison. With rumors already swirling that Eleanor poisoned Calliope's lotion, they needed solid evidence to frame her. This is a setup. But Eleanor is quick on her feet. She decides to play dumb, asking Cecily if she was just tidying up her clothes. Cecily, clearly relieved, forces out a laugh and agrees, trying to act natural. Oh honey, we all know you're not. Eleanor gives her a sweet, knowing smile. She's got this under control. Cecily, still flustered, quickly says she'll take her leave, practically sprinting for the door. And with a dash she's gone. Cecily runs through the halls, looking utterly terrified and desperate to escape. She thinks to herself if she'd been just a little slower, she would have been caught. Huffing and puffing, Cecily realizes it wouldn't have been Eleanor who caught her, but someone far more dangerous. No, it would have been Calliope, the second imperial consort, who would have absolutely killed her for messing up. In a flashback, Calliope asks Cecily if she hid the poison well. Cecily, trembling, confirms as Calliope's gaze pierces through her. Calliope, with a sinister smirk, declares that the more people involved, the merrier. Cecily's face is pure horror. This woman is truly evil. Meanwhile, Sir Bastide walks confidently through the palace, his boots clomping on the ornate floor. He reflects on the knights rushing out, wondering if there's truly a rift in the square, and if His Majesty's decision was the right one. Sir Bastide worries about His Majesty's safety, but he's stuck inside, unable to go see for himself due to direct orders. Still, he continues his patrol, a determined look on his face. He then notices a crowd gathering, and who else but Calliope is right in the middle of it. Sir Bastide turns, a question in his eyes. What in the world is going on at Tulip Palace? Calliope demands Sir Bastide step aside, claiming they have business with Lady Snow. But Sir Bastide stands firm, reminding her he's commanded to protect Eleanor and won't allow entry. The first imperial consort, the one Calliope is manipulating, retorts that His Majesty's orders weren't meant to protect a criminal. Sir Bastide looks absolutely shocked by the accusation, while Calliope can barely contain her smug smirk. Calliope is putting on a full-blown performance, sobbing dramatically and claiming she just doesn't understand what grudge Eleanor Snow could possibly hold against her to do such a thing. She continues her act, declaring she can't just stand by and watch the imperial palace fall into chaos because of Lady Snow. But in her mind, Calliope is gloating. Thanks to the gullible first imperial consort believing her every word, things have escalated perfectly, and Eleanor Snow is about to be humiliated and driven out. Calliope then turns her attention to Sir Bastide, asking if he even knows what crime the lady under his protection has committed. Sir Bastide dismisses her completely, stating he couldn't care less about the idle chatter of loose-tongued fools. Oh my God, he just called her a fool? Calliope is absolutely furious, her face contorted in rage as she demands if he doesn't recognize who she is. Sir Bastide, completely unfazed, looks down at her with a cool gaze, telling her he knows very well. He's not intimidated, not one bit. Both Calliope and the first imperial consort look stunned, while Sir Bastide remains stoic. The tension is palpable. And then, with perfect timing, Eleanor Snow makes her grand entrance, looking absolutely radiant and confident. You are not ready for this. Eleanor scoffs, cutting right to the chase. She knows exactly what this is about, Calliope using a maid to put poison in her lotion. Then, with a perfectly innocent expression, Eleanor feigns surprise, asking, "Oh my, did I really, truly?" The sarcasm is chef's kiss. The first imperial consort stutters, taking a step back. She claims she doesn't want to suspect Eleanor, but the rumors are just too dreadful to ignore. She looks genuinely conflicted, caught between Calliope's lies and Eleanor's calm demeanor. The first imperial consort observes that Eleanor didn't even flinch at her title. This woman is different. Eleanor Snow then challenges them directly. How exactly do they intend to prove she poisoned the lotion? The first imperial consort declares they will search Eleanor and her chambers, confident that evidence will surely be found. Eleanor Snow agrees, calling it a fine idea. But wait. There's a huge but coming. She then points directly at Calliope, the second imperial consort, and the maid, Cecily, suggesting they should be searched too. Calliope and Cecily's faces are priceless. They are absolutely stunned, their plan completely backfiring right before their eyes. Eleanor Snow stands tall, a brilliant, triumphant smile gracing her lips. She just turned the tables and it's glorious. The tension is thick in the air as Eleanor Snow stands calmly amidst the other consorts, a storm brewing around her. The second consort, completely blindsided, jolts in shock, demanding to know what everyone is talking about. With an unshakable resolve, Eleanor proposes a simple solution. They uncover the truth once and for all. The first consort, still reeling, questions why they should be subjected to a search, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. Eleanor, ever the strategist, explains that if they just think for a moment, there are a few possible scenarios at play here. She lays out the first possibility. The second consort could have poisoned her own lotion to frame Eleanor. The second consort vehemently denies it, shocked by the accusation. Or, Eleanor continues, the first consort might have poisoned the second consort's lotion to frame Eleanor. The first consort immediately calls it absurd. And then there's the third option, the one that makes absolutely no sense. Eleanor, who was already set to become Empress, suddenly decided to poison the second consort. The second consort can't help but let out a disbelieving chuckle, finding the idea of Eleanor doing such a thing utterly ridiculous. Eleanor, standing tall as the woman chosen by His Majesty himself, proposes a search of everyone's quarters if they all agree. A subtle, knowing smile plays on Eleanor Snow's lips, a hint of the cunning plan she has set in motion. True to her word, Imperial staff begin meticulously searching the second consort's chambers, leaving no cushion unturned. An observant male attendant notes that the second consort's dramatic reaction suggests she tried to hide the poison in Lady Snow's room, but it looks like Eleanor somehow handed it right back. He ponders the mystery, wondering how Eleanor could have done it when she was with His Majesty Emperor Kaelan at the square the entire time. Did she use an assassin, perhaps? His thoughts are cut short by a piercing scream that echoes through the palace. The attendant's eyes widen as he realizes the horrifying shriek is coming directly from the second consort's chambers. A maid holds up a small bottle, screaming in terror, while the second consort lunges for it, demanding an explanation for its presence. The second consort desperately grabs the maid's arm, trying to snatch the incriminating evidence. But Eleanor is quicker, yanking the second consort's arm away with surprising force, telling her firmly to let go. The second consort is absolutely stunned, wondering how a woman like Eleanor could possess such incredible strength. The terrified maid, finally free, declares that she found the poison bottle hidden inside Her Highness the second consort's dress. The second consort's face contorts in pure horror and denial, shouting that it can't be true. The male attendant scoffs, observing that her panicked reaction makes it completely obvious to everyone that she knew exactly what the poison was. Eleanor, ever the picture of composure, gently tells the hyperventilating second consort to calm herself. The attendant is impressed, thinking that even amidst this chaos, Eleanor still shows concern for the second consort. He realizes Eleanor is not only composed but also gaining the respect of the imperial staff, concluding that Emperor Kaelan has truly gotten himself involved with a formidable woman. The second consort, still in a state of frantic denial, insists that this isn't right, that she doesn't even know what the bottle is or how it got into her dress. Desperate, she turns to the first consort, pleading for her to say something, anything. The first consort looks away, admitting she has nothing to say, having only troubled the innocent Lady Snow by believing the second consort's lies. She offers a sincere apology to Eleanor Snow for all the commotion and trouble caused. Eleanor accepts the apology, but her words, though polite, carry a subtle undertone of superiority, acknowledging the trouble caused. The first consort grits her teeth, feeling a wave of irritation as she realizes Eleanor is subtly looking down on her. The second consort, feeling utterly betrayed, grabs the first consort, demanding to know how she could do this to her. The first consort swats her hand away, retorting that she should be asking the same question, utterly disgusted that the second consort would poison her own lotion to frame Eleanor. The second consort tries to deny it, but her words falter, unable to form a coherent defense. Internally, she's panicking, knowing that if she tells the truth, she'll have to admit she ordered Cecily to poison Eleanor's lotion. The first consort declares she can't overlook the chaos the second consort has caused and will report the entire matter directly to His Majesty Emperor Kaelan. Just as the first consort finishes her threat, a heavy step echoes, signaling a new arrival. Emperor Kaelan strides in, his clothes stained with blood, his expression grim and imposing. With a heavy step, Kaelan states the obvious: outside, people are literally dying. Yet he observes, inside the palace, such an amusing little spectacle is unfolding, his tone laced with cold disdain. He recounts the events. Rumors of Eleanor poisoning the lotion. A search was carried out, and the poison was found inside the second consort's dress. The second consort collapses to her knees, pleading with Emperor Kaelan that she is being framed, that the poison isn't hers. She dramatically pulls down her veil, revealing her scarred face, asking what kind of woman would ruin her own face just to frame someone, insisting she's the true victim. Eleanor looks on, recalling the rumors she heard about the second consort, and how her own frustration led her to investigate. The second consort looks up at Emperor Kaelan, tears streaming down her face, hoping for his sympathy. But Kaelan's response is chillingly cold. He declares it doesn't matter who mixed or concealed the poison, leaving the second consort utterly devastated. She sobs, reminding him that she's the one whose face has been scarred, the one who suffered. She desperately insists she's the victim, not Eleanor, as Emperor Kaelan lets out a weary sigh, clearly done with the drama. And then, in a move that absolutely shocks everyone, Emperor Kaelan puts his arm around Eleanor Snow, declaring her his equal from this day forward. Oh my God, you're not ready for what this means. Izen is in an uproar, whispers filling the air as the second consort stands accused, tears streaming down her face. Emperor Leon, absolutely furious, makes it clear. An attack on his equal, Empress Selena, is an attack on him. He doesn't care if the poison was in the second consort's lotion or her food. The act itself is unforgivable. Empress Selena, observing the scene, notes that her future husband is far more brazen than she ever imagined. Leon then delivers his judgment to the second consort, confining her to Rose Palace for 2 months, with strict orders not to be seen outside its walls. The second consort is completely distraught, crying out to His Majesty in disbelief. But Leon isn't done. He suspects she didn't act alone and demands to know which servant helped her. His eyes burning with cold fury, Emperor Leon simply states, "Kill her." The servant Cecily collapses to her knees, begging for her life, promising never to repeat her actions. Leon turns his back, completely unmoved by her desperate pleas. Suddenly, Empress Selena steps forward, offering to take Cecily under her charge and asking for His Majesty's permission. Cecily looks up, utterly shocked by Selena's unexpected intervention. Emperor Leon smirks, commenting that Selena truly enjoys picking up strays. Selena, with a gentle smile, suggests that His Majesty would prefer a palace untroubled by such strays, both inside and out. Then, with a chilling shift in tone, she looks at Cecily and says, "Then die." Cecily flinches, her face contorted in pure terror. Selena, still calm, asks why Cecily isn't dead yet, prompting another desperate plea from the servant. The Empress sips her tea, maintaining an air of serene authority. She tells Cecily that she's just a powerless servant who was only following the second consort's orders. Cecily sobs, agreeing that it's unfair and she doesn't want to die. Selena then offers her a lifeline. Serve her from now on, but only if she's completely honest and hides nothing. Cecily, still sniffling, gratefully accepts, promising to work hard. Selena lays down the rules. Cecily is never to go to Rose Palace again, and nothing she hears here must ever leave these walls. Cecily vows never to follow the second consort's orders again, pledging all her loyalty to Selena. But Selena, ever the pragmatist, tells Cecily she doesn't trust her. She explains that right now, there's simply no reason to. Cecily understands, accepting the Empress's words with a bowed head. Emperor Leon watches the exchange, a thoughtful expression on his face. Selena explains her decision to Leon, stating that she only believes in killing when death is truly deserved, and Cecily simply didn't deserve to die. Leon looks at her, questioning her words. And then, the bombshell drops. Leon reveals that it was Selena herself who planted the poison on the second consort, not Cecily. Cecily is absolutely stunned, looking at Selena with wide, disbelieving eyes. A flashback shows Selena, cloaked and hooded, holding the very vial of poison. Leon asks if Selena feels pity for Cecily, who was just following orders, just like Selena was following her own plan. He tells her that she's already learned something important. Leon reaches out, gently touching Selena's face. He reveals that what she's learned is compassion. Selena, looking at him, wonders if compassion truly is beautiful. Leon confirms it with a soft smile, calling it a dazzling, beautiful emotion. Later, outside, Leon reflects on his own feelings, wondering if what he feels for Selena is also compassion. Meanwhile, Selena, still inside, realizes that in this very moment, she's deeply worried about him. Crown Prince Jeremy is absolutely pushing himself to the limit, his power flaring as he tries to contain the chaos, even as he coughs up blood, clearly in immense pain. The raw energy sparks from his hand, a blinding light that shows just how much he's struggling, barely holding it together. He grits his teeth, a pained groan escaping him as he apologizes to someone, perhaps himself, for his current state. "This is bad, you guys." Blood trickles from his eyes as his body trembles from the exertion, yet he still manages to command silence, asserting his authority even in this weakened state. He feels completely drained, the weight of his power and his injuries taking a massive toll on him. Is it just the injuries though? Or is there something more sinister at play here that's sapping his strength? Later, Crown Prince Jeremy is slumped on a chair, covered in blood, looking utterly exhausted but still refusing to rest. Suddenly, a hand reaches in and Marquis Jeremy, his loyal aide, scolds him for overdoing it yet again. Marquis Jeremy holds out a clean cloth, clearly exasperated, telling the Crown Prince he should have prioritized his own treatment. Crown Prince Jeremy just wipes his face, brushing off the concern, and immediately asks about the consorts. Always putting others first, our guy. Marquis Jeremy reports that the consorts have calmed down and Rose Palace has been sealed, just as ordered. The Crown Prince, ever the leader, quickly shifts to strategy, ordering a full search of the capital for traces of the rift and troops stationed at every road. Before he can give more orders, Marquis Jeremy literally lifts him up, making Crown Prince Jeremy look completely surprised. Marquis Jeremy insists he go straight to his chambers and get some proper rest, but Crown Prince Jeremy tries to protest. He manages a small, tired smile, probably thinking about all the work still to be done. Even lying down, Crown Prince Jeremy's mind is racing, unable to truly rest as he stares blankly at the ceiling. His thoughts drift back to the terrifying screams, the chaos, the sheer panic as people cried out about a rift. This trauma runs deep. He springs up, startled, the nightmare of the rift still haunting him even in his waking moments. Crown Prince Jeremy reflects on the immense power he wields, a power that should protect, but also seems to be slowly consuming him. Meanwhile, Letitia Delgado, the descendant of the Delgado healing line, questions Marquis Jeremy, wondering why someone with such power hasn't healed himself yet. She emphasizes that wounds inflicted by monsters are particularly stubborn, hinting at the true nature of Crown Prince Jeremy's injuries. Letitia, with her healing lineage, assumed he could heal himself, but it seems he's been neglecting his own wounds to tend to others. She then offers to examine his wound, which genuinely surprises Crown Prince Jeremy, who didn't realize she also possessed medical knowledge. Letitia clarifies that it's not exactly medicine but a special family remedy specifically for monster-inflicted wounds. She's got the secret sauce. Since she's offering, Crown Prince Jeremy sees no reason to refuse. He stands up, ready for her examination. Letitia leans in close, her proximity making the moment incredibly tense as she prepares to inspect his shoulder. She tells him she can't see clearly and asks if he could just turn his head a bit. With a mischievous smirk, Crown Prince Jeremy asks if he should just take his shirt off instead. "Oh my guy, you know what you're doing." Letitia, looking a little flustered, agrees that it would indeed be for the best. She's trying to keep it professional, but the tension is palpable. Crown Prince Jeremy begins to unbutton his blood-stained shirt, slowly revealing his injured torso. And just like that, the shirt comes off, revealing his absolutely ripped physique and the extent of his monster-inflicted injuries. Letitia confirms that the wound on his side is indeed deep, a serious injury that clearly hasn't been properly treated. A closer look at the gash reveals just how severe it is, a stark reminder of the dangers he faces. Letitia carefully dabs the wound with a cloth and Crown Prince Jeremy flinches slightly from the touch. He then says with a hint of playfulness that it tickles, making Letitia look up at him, a flicker of emotion in her eyes. Their eyes meet and in that moment you can feel the shift in their dynamic. What will happen next between these two? You're not ready for this. Alright, chapter 18 kicks off right where we left off with Empress Yuria tending to Emperor Kale's wounds. Look at that intense gaze between them, you can cut the tension with a knife. Empress Yuria, ever the diligent one, gently tells Emperor Kale to please stay still while she cleans his injuries. Emperor Kale just gives her a silent, almost annoyed look, clearly not thrilled about being fussed over. Yuria assures him she's almost done, just one more wipe, and even compliments him on doing a good job. My man is literally stiff with something. Kale smirks, complaining that he feels like he's being treated like a child, but Yuria is having none of it, firmly telling him not to move. He just smiles, finding her scolding him for moving just a little quite harsh. "Oh Kale, you're enjoying this, aren't you?" Yuria warns him that she's about to clean the wound and if he moves even slightly, it'll hurt more. Kale, however, is thinking it's not the pain that's the issue. And just like that, Kale clenches his fist. The big reveal, her touch is unbearably ticklish. I'm screaming, this is absolutely hilarious. Empress Yuria then asks a loaded question. What if the ointment she was applying hadn't been medicine but poison? Emperor Kale, ever the dramatic one, playfully asks if this is how he's going to die. This man, I swear. Yuria smiles sweetly, confirming he will die one day, but she'll adjust the dosage so he passes away in about 100 years. Talk about a long-term plan. Kale's playful expression drops and he looks genuinely serious, stating he doesn't wish to live that long. That's a heavy line, folks. But Yuria insists for the peace of the Tevent Empire, Emperor Kale must live a long life. She's really putting the burden on him. Kale looks at her, calling it a heavy burden to carry. You can see the weight of his position on his face. Yuria holds up a small bottle, a slight smile on her face, asking if he has a truly wonderful wife. Is she talking about herself here? Emperor Kale's expression darkens as he reveals a chilling truth. His previous wives usually died quickly. Yikes, that's a red flag, Yuria. A moment of silence hangs between them, the playful banter completely gone, replaced by a much heavier atmosphere. Empress Yuria then admits she never expected Emperor Kale to proclaim her the next Empress so soon. Kale scoffs, saying it's hardly something to be thankful for. He warns her that her enemies will now strike at her even more viciously. Yuria holds his hand, asking if he considers his enemies to be like birds, cats, and dogs. What a way to downplay them. Emperor Kale looks at her, questioning if that's truly how she views her enemies. Empress Yuria smiles, finding them rather cute, charging at her without knowing their place. She's got some serious confidence, you guys. Kale smirks, then asks her what it is that truly frightens her. He's trying to get under her skin now. Yuria's expression turns serious, her eyes distant as she begins to explain what truly scares her. She fears those who become precious to her, all while hiding their true colors. This is a deep cut and Kale is listening intently. Emperor Kale looks at her, a thoughtful expression on his face, clearly processing her words. Empress Yuria then asks him if he doesn't wish to return to Snow Domain, even offering to send him there right away if he desires. She continues, saying she would lend him her strength until Snow Domain recovers, even if he gave up the throne. Kale is shocked she'd make such a selfless promise. Yuria smiles, placing a hand over her heart, telling Emperor Kale he is truly kind. Is she being genuine or playing a game? Kale looks completely taken aback, admitting it's the first time in his life he's ever been called kind. That's actually kinda sad, you guys. Despite everything, Empress Yuria declares that even so she will become Empress. Her resolve is absolutely unwavering. She confesses that yes, she did want to return to Snow Domain and truly longed for it. This makes her decision even more impactful. But she's come to realize that the enemies who target Emperor Kale treat human life as less than that of a fly. This is a brutal awakening for her. She also realized that Kale has been bearing all of this burden alone. Our girl is finally seeing the full picture. Empress Yuria states there's no way she can leave, placing another burden on his shoulders just to protect her own home. She's choosing him. She squeezes his hand, declaring that her brother will protect Snow Domain without her. So she's choosing to stay and protect Kale. Emperor Kale looks at her, a flicker of surprise and perhaps something more in his eyes as he quietly asks, "Protect me." But then Kale pulls his hand away, his expression hardening. He tells Yuria flat out he does not trust her. Ouch, that's a punch to the gut. He asks her how many times people whispered sweet words to him, only to end up slipping poison into his cup. His past is truly haunting him. Kale looks at his hand, feeling as though he's caught in a spell, unable to utter a single word, his entire body bound. Empress Yuria looks at him, her expression unreadable, and says he truly is a greater mage than she imagined. What does she mean by that? Emperor Kale turns away, asking what she means all of a sudden. He admits he wants to believe her words, even if they are lies. He quickly dismisses it, telling her to forget it, saying he is truly not himself at all. What a cliffhanger, you guys. Is Kale finally letting his guard down, or is this just another test? We open on the opulent palace of the Empress Dowager, a place of beauty that hides a dark heart. Empress Dowager Calyx, looking smug, asks if His Majesty has splendidly sealed the rift. A male attendant confirms, but his expression is anything but celebratory. The Empress Dowager continues to speak, but her words are abruptly cut off by a terrifying slash. Blood splatters violently across the screen, a shocking burst of crimson. Her face is instantly covered in blood, eyes wide with horror as the crimson liquid drips down her elegant gown. A body hits the floor with a sickening thunk and we see the attendant standing over it, sword in hand. He just killed someone. The Empress Dowager is absolutely livid, screaming about all her effort to open the rift, only for that bastard to seal it shut. She trembles with rage and despair, her blood-soaked hands covering her face, utterly devastated by her failed plans. A stern-faced noble and ally of the Empress Dowager laments the losses they've endured just to kill that wretched Delgado, warning her of his deep disappointment if she fails. The attendant tries to reassure the Empress Dowager, reminding her that the Emperor wouldn't dare harm Margrave Calix's daughter, Eleanor Snow, given the Margrave's popularity. Still reeling, the Empress Dowager demands to know what happened to the spellcasters. The attendant coldly reveals he sent men to kill them the moment the rift opened. Talk about ruthless efficiency. He continues, explaining that the Emperor will now be bound to the palace for some time, implying their plan is still somewhat on track. With a sigh, the attendant reveals the Emperor has declared Eleanor Snow the next Empress, a piece of news that the Empress Dowager confirms with a grim expression. Furious, the Empress Dowager declares she must meet Eleanor Snow herself. This is going to be a tense encounter. Meanwhile, Eleanor Snow walks gracefully through a moonlit garden, her ethereal beauty shining even in the dark. An attendant approaches, informing Eleanor that the Empress Dowager has invited her to breakfast tomorrow. Eleanor reflects on the Empress Dowager, the Emperor's mother, and wonders why a mother would ever wish for her own son's death. She feels that, at last, she might be able to unravel that dark mystery surrounding the imperial family. A gentle breeze rustles through the trees as Eleanor finds Emperor Calix sitting alone in the garden. Emperor Calix, looking weary, asks Eleanor why she's out so late at night. She ignores his question, her concern evident as she asks about his injuries. Calix admits her treatment worked, but sadly states he may only live a few more years, to which Eleanor insists he must live much longer. He gives a melancholic smile, confessing that death feels more suitable to him than life itself. Eleanor is visibly shocked by his words, her expression a mix of concern and disbelief. Her mind flashes back, remembering a vision or a story about the last survivor of their noble family. We see a magnificent winged figure, radiating divine power, a truly legendary being. And then the bombshell: this powerful being is identified as Herace Delgado. Wait, is that Calix? Oh my god. The vision continues, showing Herace Delgado in a terrifying, fiery, monstrous form, confirming he is the last of the legendary shapeshifters. A chilling, hooded figure surrounded by dark energy appears, and Eleanor realizes someone is actively trying to bring Herace Delgado to an early end. Back in the present, Eleanor looks at Calix with a newfound understanding and deep concern. Calix turns to her, surprised, as Eleanor suggests he wouldn't have to suffer alone if he had an heir. He's completely speechless, staring at her with wide eyes. Then, to Eleanor's surprise, Calix bursts out laughing, a genuine hearty laugh. Eleanor, slightly flustered, asks if she said something amusing, and Calix replies that she is just truly. He finishes his thought, calling her a truly interesting, unexplainable woman. He's clearly captivated by her. Calix glances away, then back at Eleanor, playfully asking if he seems like someone who desires men. Eleanor leans in, whispering a bold question. Is it that you do not love a woman? Calix is absolutely stunned. Emperor Herace Delgado looks at Eleanor with a challenging smirk, asking if he really seems like someone who desires women. He just smirks, eyes half closed, clearly enjoying Eleanor's discomfort. But Eleanor Snow isn't backing down. She tells him he's wrong, asserting that she hasn't lost her ability to produce and air Eleanor's discomfort, nor is she attracted to men. Herace looks genuinely surprised, asking her then why. Eleanor looks away, her expression somber, as she questions if a child of Herace Delgado could possibly grow up unharmed. And just like that, Herace understands. Eleanor fears her child would live under the constant shadow of death, just like she does. With a determined look, Eleanor declares that since the wedding ceremony is being held, they should share their beds. She firmly states her intention to bear and raise a child who will carry on the Delgado line. Herace is absolutely dazed by her unexpected resolve, completely taken aback. But then his expression hardens and he tells her he has no intention of doing that, leaving Eleanor stunned. Eleanor, bewildered, asks why, pointing out it's only natural for a husband and wife to have children, especially for the emperor who rules the empire. She pledges to make sure their child will never know darkness, growing up basking in radiant sunlight. A flashback shows a young Herace trembling and alone in a dark, desolate room, revealing the deep-seated trauma that drives his actions. Back in the present, Herace scoffs, dismissing Eleanor's words as mere shyness. Eleanor reassures him, promising to diligently study and guide him well, completely missing the point. Herace is utterly confused by her response, asking yes, as Eleanor just looks at him. He shouts, clarifying that's absolutely not what he meant. Later, Eleanor prepares for a new challenge, looking out a window as birds flutter by. Her attendant, Kale, asks if she's meeting the Empress Dowager. Eleanor, now dressed in a stunning blue gown, confirms she is, stating she's been waiting for this moment. Kale, ever the loyal protector, warns her that the Empress Dowager might even try to kill her. Eleanor dismisses his concern with a confident smile, saying she'll make sure the Empress Dowager sees her as a woman not even worth killing. Kale is clearly perplexed. She intends to appear as a foolishly oblivious young lady, a brilliant strategy to disarm her formidable opponent. And so, Eleanor arrives at the grand palace of the Empress Dowager. Inside, the Empress Dowager, a formidable figure, sits with her attendant, Count Elias, awaiting Eleanor. Eleanor Snow makes her entrance, and the Empress Dowager acknowledges her name. The Empress Dowager observes Eleanor, noting her undeniable beauty. Eleanor greets the Empress Dowager with perfect courtly manners, introducing herself as Eleanor Snow of House Snow. The Empress Dowager, thinking Eleanor might be useful, invites her to sit. While the Empress Dowager watches intently, Eleanor is completely engrossed in eating, fork in hand. The Empress Dowager internally critiques Eleanor's lavish ornaments, deeming them far too gaudy and inappropriate for the imperial court. Eleanor's tableware clatters loudly against her plate, a clear sign of her unrefined table manners. A close-up shows Eleanor, still eating, looking utterly innocent and oblivious. The Empress Dowager muses that Eleanor looks naive but wonders if it's an act. She then cuts to the chase, asking about the emperor declaring Eleanor the next empress. Eleanor confirms the declaration. The Empress Dowager then probes, asking what promise Eleanor and the emperor exchanged. Eleanor pauses, fork still in hand, feigning confusion and asking about a promise. The Empress Dowager explains that it's unlikely the emperor would suddenly offer the throne to a young lady he barely knows, especially one who merely came to him for aid. She suspects Eleanor promised him something first. Eleanor acts shocked, then apologetically tells the Empress Dowager she might be mistaken. She begins her story explaining that long ago, before the Domain War broke out, His Majesty sent her a letter. The Empress Dowager questions a letter. Eleanor explains the emperor had heard rumors of her exceptional beauty and wished to see her in person. The Empress Dowager lets out a clear scoff, completely unconvinced by Eleanor's tale. Eleanor acts flustered, denying she would ever trifle with His Majesty, but the Empress Dowager simply tells her to keep talking. Eleanor continues, saying that after the Domain War broke out and the situation became dire, that letter suddenly came to mind, prompting her to seek His Majesty's aid. The Empress Dowager listens, a subtle, almost amused smile playing on her lips. Eleanor beams, gushing about how truly kind His Majesty is and how overjoyed she was when he bought her this beautiful dress, hairpin, necklace, and bracelets. She adds with a slight tremor in her voice that although the rumors surrounding His Majesty are a little frightening, Eleanor clasps her hands together, looking utterly innocent and sweet, playing the part perfectly. Later, the Empress Dowager asks Count Elias for his impression of Eleanor. He states she seemed foolish. Count Elias then asks the Empress Dowager if she had a different impression. The Empress Dowager smiles, a chilling glint in her eyes, declaring Eleanor is either a complete fool or terribly clever. She concludes that only time will tell, or perhaps Eleanor will die even before they get the chance to find out. Oh my God, this is getting intense.